brief lecture or about autonomy. Autonomy as, you could say, the main river going through the last 200 years of cultural history. Before we have representation, and then the lower kind of ranks, genres of artistic activities, landscape, portrait, and then sketches. Representation means both church and kind of power. But starting with realism, Courbet, where Courbet sits somewhere in the Normandy on the beach, painting the rocks, the sand, and the plants. There is no further reference. And this is the starting point where we move towards the autonomy of the arts. Cézanne, where the touch, also the brush stroke, as its first kind of like autonomy, where it stands on itself, it has its own value, independent from any depiction. I think that's an essential step. Then, of course, that leads then to the abstraction, Black Square, Mondrian, and these movements got then re-excited again through kind of abstract expressionisms, and before, of course, Cubism, where things actually get Baroquesque and manneristic again. But what it actually finally leads to, or we could say also ends with, is concept art, early mid-60s, where we end up with the pure written down sentence of an idea, maybe in the best case, just a thought idea that is the finalization of that movement of autonomy. This could have been the end of the arts, but it didn't. Why? From that point, suddenly all the artists, or at least the avant-gardes, post-avant-garde move back in all to the dust, the dirt, materials, the flower leaves and pods. All these things become exciting again. So if you like, you could describe the last 50 years, at least a partial giving up or gained autonomy. You know, so you could describe it as a reverse version of, you have a point, and then artists' movements try to partially renegotiate a possible representation of certain parts of reality. And I think a movement that made that actually as its core kind of like concept is relational aesthetics, where relating to a reality becomes the determination, the ground concept. The response is here the leading movement. Funnily, that's a different kind of connection, is also where I think with the birth of the curatorial curriculum, the relational is such a well-fitting into starting to become industrialized curatorial industry, that the relational and the curatorial could, from the perspective of today, linked together. Yeah? So I think that's the kind of like main movements I want you to keep in mind when thinking about autonomy, peaking with conceptualism, and then kind of like renegotiating the achieved autonomy by re-inviting, relating to any form of reality outside, but of course, being in charge of the chosen reality. So I think that's the general movement. Okay. I leave you with Bendy again.